Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us to our latest community of practice session. These sessions have been great to see you guys interacting with each other, and we hope to have more of that today. There'll be some more opportunities to use the mural board that you are now familiar with to try and share ideas and lessons learned with the full group. And we'll also have some time to break out into the specific options, so the rent reporting and the savings account options, to give you some more information directly from the evaluation team on random assignment and some implementation matters. So with that, just want to thank everybody for being here. Thank all our presenters from both ICF and the research team at Apt Associates. So I will hand it over to Johanna to go ahead and get started. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Allison, and hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Johanna Barrero. I work with ICF. I have over 20 years of experience in community and economic development, and most recently have supported the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the FDIC in their development of materials and programs to help consumers with financial decision making. I am joined today by my colleague, Devin Stubblefield, who is a training and technical assistance provider with ICF. Devin works with asset building coalitions around the country on a wide range of programs that help people build saving, build credit, and take other actions that improve their financial well-being. And also with us today, we have some colleagues from Apt Associates. We have the following research team presenters: Larry Burren, who is a principal associate. And to speak about the rent reporting for credit building program, we have Sean Moulton, who is a senior associate. And to talk about the opt-out savings account program, we have Judy Geyer, who is a senior associate. And with that, let's talk about our session objectives for today. So during today's session, we hope that you will learn about how to craft a compelling message that communicates the key components of your asset building program. We'll also look at how to design an outreach strategy based on existing touch points with residents. And we'll also learn some important information about the research design team's approach to random assignment of residents to both the control and the treatment groups. And as you can see, we have a full agenda for today. We're gonna first discuss formulating your PHA's messaging and outreach strategy. We'll then head over to Mural to dive into message crafting with a three-part brainstorming exercise. You can see here, part one will be basically a conversation about your residents. In part two, we will discuss your program and your residents. And in part three, we'll develop some message points and a unified message that you can use to communicate about your program. And to conclude our mural exercise, we're going to discuss or design as a group an outreach strategy in Mural. Then we'll move on, we'll move into breakout rooms, and we will hear from the research design team and their approach to random assignment. There will be one breakout room for the opt-out savings account program and one for the rent reporting for credit building program. And finally, we are going to ask you to provide your feedback from you on topics that you would find helpful for us to cover in upcoming sessions. So that's what we have in store for you. And with that overview of today's session, I welcome you again, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, Devin. Devin?
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Good day, everyone. I am so glad to be here today, and I want to say good day to everyone. Thank you, Johanna and Allison, for that wonderful introduction. And now we're going to get into our discussion today. And just so you know, just to reiterate, we will be here in the slide deck here for a few moments, and then we'll eventually transition over to the mural board where we'll be doing most of our discussion. But we're going to be actually in this, and we want to make sure that we set the context right now. So we'll go to our next slide here, and we want to think about the keys to our messaging. And what we want to do here is think about a strong message. You guys have been doing great work with your programs, but now what we have to do is to establish how we're actually going to message that. So we got to focus on a singular message and ensure that the message is well crafted and make sure that we've got consistency. And so I'm going to ask you if you agree with that, let's talk about why. And let's really say what's important to have a single, well crafted, consistent message. What is important about it? Go ahead and type that into the chat and give us your thoughts on that. And if anyone wants to unmute, you certainly can do that. We welcome that if you would love to just speak versus typing. But we do want to see some of your thoughts and make sure that we are on the same page around what's important about having a single, well-crafted, consistent message. All right. Yes, looks like we've got some answers coming in. It's just important for clarity. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. And that is so awesome because we want to make sure that everyone understands what it is that you're doing, because that's going to reduce the confusion. And also, people learn through repetition, so it might take a couple of times of hearing a message for it to stick. All right, we got someone else that says clarity and crisp communication. Yes, that's exactly it. We want to make sure that we are having that crisp, yes, that very consistent communication. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And also want to make sure that the messages are timely. You know, people want to know what's going on. And so we want to make sure that we're putting that message out on a regular basis. All right. Thank you so much for that. And we really appreciate those who have contributed to that discussion. All right. So we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about on the next slide, we're going to get into, well, what makes a message well crafted? And I want you to think about a few things. When we talk about message quality, we're talking about, is the message centered around what the audience cares about? Okay, is it in plain language, or is it presented in languages that are relevant to your residents? We also want to make sure that the message is concise and to the point, and it really points people to an action. Okay, so these are some very specific things that creates message quality. And so what we want to do now is we want to take a poll. And so we have our first poll, and that is going to be, then I'm going to ask our um, administrator to go ahead and start the poll. Our poll is on the next slide as well, is how is your staff feeling about their ability to communicate with residents about program? And so you've got a few choices here: very confident, confident, not confident, or not at all confident. Okay, so let's go ahead and answer this poll. How are you feeling about your staff's ability to communicate with residents about the program? Okay, so we'll just give it a few more moments. All right. I'm going to ask our host if wouldn't mind just go ahead and letting us know how we are with our answers. Let's take a look at what the results are. Okay. So based on what we see here, it looks like the majority of you that answered says you feel confident. Well, that's great. We did have a few that said not confident, and a smaller number that said very confident. So we're kind of all over the board here, and that's okay. And that's why we're here today. So thank you so much for doing that. And we're going to talk about things that we can do to really dial this in for everybody. We have another poll. Let's go to the next one. The next poll is, to what extent does your PHA have a strategy with messages and materials for communicating with residents about the program. And so we've got a choice here between we have a complete strategy or we have some pieces and ideas in place, but some work left to do. We're in the early stages of creating our strategy, or we haven't started developing the strategy yet. So take a moment now to answer that. All right. Also want to say thank you to those that are participating. We'd love to get everyone chiming in here. All right, so let's take a look at our results. Okay, we've almost got a three-way tie between we have some pieces in place, we're in the early stages, or we haven't started. I mean, literally, those three are really neck and neck in terms of the number of people who responded there. And so, that's okay. We are here today to really get this going. And thank you so much, because the whole idea here is to, think about these strategies. And we're going to give you a tool, and Johanna's going to come back in a moment to talk to us about that. But before we do, I just want to say one more thing before we turn it back to Johanna on the next slide. And it's really about, in terms of this, we want to make sure that when we utilizing the messaging for a positive program launch, there's a few things we got to keep in mind. There are things we want a message to do. So first of all, you all know people are going to have questions, they're going to have concerns. And so we want to make sure that the messaging is really, really geared towards answering those things. But it also at the same time has to build excitement. We really want lots of energy behind the initiatives, getting the residents talking to each other about it and telling each other that they should participate, and really just making sure that everyone feels comfortable with it. And then the messaging should actually have a call to action. Okay, we want people to stay focused on moving forward in both of the programs. And so when we talk about utilizing the messages for a positive program launch, we're hoping that it does include these elements. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Johanna, who's going to take us a little bit further.
All
Johanna.
right. Thank you, Devin. Let's look at some foundational concepts for message crafting. We're going to talk about the call to action that Devin mentioned, and we're also going to tell you a little bit about the message triangle, which is a tool that we will use in Mural later on. So first, let's look at program calls to action. And here we want you to keep in mind that the call to action, or in other words, what you're asking residents to do in order to participate in your program, is different based on which program we're talking about. So for the opt-out savings program, you will be asking your residents to stay in the program. And one of your goals will be to really minimize any program attrition. And the way to do that is by keeping residents motivated and engaged. For the rent reporting credit building program, you're asking participants something very different. You're asking them to take action and sign up for the program. So the messages will be very different for these groups. All right, so here is the message triangle, which is the tool that I was mentioning. This is a tool that is based on the principle that people focus best on messages that are built around 3 or 4 consistent points. So some of you had mentioned in the chat that you want to have crisp, clear messages. That's exactly right. Here you can see some things to consider about crafting your message and using this tool. You want to make sure that the message is easy to understand. So you'll want to use clear and straightforward language that came up, language that is easy to understand for anyone in your audience. You'll also want to keep your message brief and to the point. And that means avoiding any unnecessary details. things that can interfere with the clarity of your message, things that can get your audience confused. So by keeping your message brief and to the point, you will make your message a lot easier to remember. And finally, you'll want to craft a message that leaves a positive impression in your audience. So you want a message that appeals to your audience emotions and that inspires them. So again, the message triangle represents three simple but very, powerful and concise points that center around a unifying theme. So you'll see a demonstration of this, but as we work on those three elements of the message triangle, we'll bring those together into one unifying theme, and that's what you will base other communications off of. All right, so today, as I mentioned, we'll have a chance to practice using the message triangle during our mural exercise. In that exercise, we will look at some key questions that will help inform your message. So we can start with asking those questions. We will then brainstorm some message points and we'll select 3 of them, the ones that we find most compelling, and we will use those 3 message points to build our unified message. I want to mention that this is going to be a demonstration. It's not meant to provide you the message that you will use in your community, but it should give you the tools that you need to go out in your community and create a message that resonates with your residents. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Devin, who will guide us through the mural exercise.
Thank you, Johanna. Okay, so we are going to be collaborating in the mural board. And at this point, I'm going to ask if Gwendolyn would drop the link in the chat for everyone. And we want you just to simply click the link and we will be going over to the mural board. And while we're doing that, I just want to kind of give a bit of instructions just to kind of reacclimate everyone to how this is going to work. So once we are here, and I see everyone coming into the board now. So the way this is going to work is that we are going to be collaborating together. Although we are on the same board, everyone's board is its own instance. So don't feel like what you're doing on the board is going to interfere with anyone else. And so the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to summon everyone over to where I am. And we're going to start over on the far left column, okay, where it says messaging and outreach brainstorm. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at how to navigate around. Now, we went through the agenda briefly in the slide deck, but here it is again here, where you see we're going to be doing message crafting. There's 3 parts to that. We'll be going through each of those. And then we're going to be led through an outreach strategy, and then we'll discuss next steps and close. And by the way, we'll also have a breakout session at the conclusion of the mural board to further get acclimated with both of the initiatives around what's been going on. And so let's talk about now the navigation. I want you to look at the board in terms of moving around. You've got a couple of different options. You can use your mouse, and if you left click on the mouse and hold it and drag left or right, the board will move accordingly. Also, if you are on a device where you have a tablet, you can actually pinch in or pinch out to zoom in or zoom out. You can do that however you want to do. Now, also with the mouse, you can actually use your track wheel, and that will also zoom in or zoom out as well. Now, you may notice there is a mini map on the bottom right of your screen, and that just kind of gives you a navigation point of where you are on the board. That doesn't really serve a function for us and what we're doing, because if you're controlling where you are with these gestures and the mouse that I'm sharing with you, then it's all good. Now, in terms of sticky notes, now we're going to be asking you all to make comments on the sticky notes If you double click anywhere on the board, you'll be able to type into a sticky note will appear. And I see some of you doing that right now, which is okay. It's all good. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually do this together as we go through our discussion. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to bring us all into our first section, which is going to be on section 1. Okay, so we're all coming over here. And so what we're going to do here, this is where we're going to begin our collaboration. And notice here on this particular section, we've got a couple of questions there, and we've got some stickies on the board. We're going to start with the first one. And I want you to think about who are the key audiences within your population of residents. And now we're talking about crafting the message. And so who are we talking to? Anytime we do a message, we have to think about, well, who's listening, who's the recipient of the message. So what I want you to do is just type in any of the stickies there. Now, you may notice that there's a tip there. It says we're going to continue to think about residents generally, but you could craft a strategy specific to a subgroup. So you may have seniors in your group that you may want to target messages around that. So single mothers, as I see what's on the board. So thank you. You guys are getting it right. So we're thinking about the key audiences. That's very, very important place to start. Who are we speaking to in terms of our messaging? All right, we've got some very good answers here. We have elderly / disabled, yeah, low income families, ELS, okay, yes, staff, right, single mothers, extremely low income, yes, thank you so much, thank you, yeah, we're getting that down pretty good. All right. Also, in addition to that, now while we're thinking about the people that we're talking to, there's another aspect of this. We have to think about what's going to make the program relevant to a resident's life. Okay, so now as you can see, we've got a couple of examples on the board. Now, this is where we're going to start thinking about the delineation between the savings initiative and the credit building initiative. Now, let's talk about the savings initiative. So if we're talking about what's going to make a program relevant to residents for that, notice it says aspires to own a home, or maybe they have some cash flow challenges or currently not banked. What I want you to do, if you are focused on the savings initiative, think about other things that might make it relevant to them, their lives, things that they're experiencing. Now, at the same time, those of you who are working with the credit building initiative, I want you to think about this. So there could be people that are aspiring to home ownership. They could be a good program. I'm sorry, a good candidate for the credit program, or people that are credit invisible. And credit invisible means that they don't have much on a credit report. They may not have anything on a credit report at all. And so those are very good candidates for this program. Or what about people who anticipates a credit check by potential employers? We know people are out looking for jobs, and we know that employers are running credit reports. And then what about people who recently took a Money Smart class on credit? So these are just examples. So what I want you to do is just really take a moment and put in the chat there what you're thinking. All right, we've got on the saving side, we got no out-of-pocket contribution, rainy day fund, need an emergency fund. All right, opportunity to not live month to month, opportunity to develop stronger savings habits. Yes, help younger people in their household learn about banking, build savings where they make no contribution. Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. Lots of great answers on the saving side. On the credit side, buying a home, buying a car, people that might have collection debts, yes, medical debts. These are all reasons why people might want to participate in the credit building program. Yes, find a new rental. Yeah, improving their credit. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So again, we're talking about getting the things that we need to gather in our minds about this messaging. And these are great, great elements that we can include in the messaging as we begin to craft them. All right, thank you so much. And also, I want to bring to everyone's attention, you may have noticed at the top of the section that there are minutes that are projected there. And so we are actually timing each of these sections just to make sure we get to the board, because we want to make sure that we have enough time to get into our breakout sessions at the end of the mural. And so from time to time, you may hear a chime that will signify that it's time to move to the next section. So we'll just keep moving, we'll keep working, but if you hear that chime, then we're going to go ahead and wrap up that section and move to the next. So let's see what else that we have here in this first section here. All right, got a few more entries here. Get their life on track. Yeah, under the credit. All right, Johanna, is there anything else that I may have missed in terms of the stickies comments?
No, I think the ones that jump out to me, Devin, I thought they were really interesting. The opportunity to become banked is one on the savings side, but also the fact that there's no out-of-pocket contribution. I think those are a couple of things that we should keep in mind as we move forward with this exercise. And with credit, I mean, it's basically, I think what participants have pointed out here is a lot of real need to take care of debt and bills.
Yes, awesome. All things to consider around our messaging. Well, very good. Well, I think we'll just go ahead and continue moving on in the board. Thank you all so much for contributing to section 1. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to get into section 2. So I'm going to summon everyone over there to the top part of section 2, where we're going to get a little bit deeper. So we're going to talk about your program and residents. Now there are 3 questions here for each of the initiatives. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these 3 questions. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to obviously answer all 3 if you can, but start wherever you have the most contribution. So the first question is, what are benefits of your program to residents, and what will it help them do? And so we have the delineation between the savings initiative and the credit initiative. So go ahead and think about that. The second question, what are reasons people may hesitate to participate? Maybe they have some fears or some other things that are on their mind that might give them a little bit of hesitation to move forward. So what are those things for both of the initiatives? And then the third question is, what are the most important things residents need to know about your program? Okay, and focusing in on what's relevant to the resident. So go ahead. Now we've got a little bit of time here for this particular panel, and I know we've got our timer set. And so I'm going to allow you some time to think and to put information on the board. And in a moment, we'll comment on what you've contributed. And at any time, if there's any of you that would like to say something, that would like to comment on any of the post-its, then please do so. Now, I also want to bring to your attention, you'll notice on the left-hand side, there are like icons, those thumbs up icons. When you're looking at everyone's comments that are writing on the board, if you agree with one or you really like, yeah, that one's really cool, I just go ahead and drag a like to that particular sticky. Because what we want to do, we want to get some momentum around some of these answers. And of course, we want to make sure that, when we talk about our messaging, that we're really formulating strong messages around these answers. And Johanna, looks like we've got some likes being dragged around the board right now. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't mind me if I move them a little bit to the
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no worries. Yeah. So we can see the actual information. Wow, we've got some good momentum going here under this first one,
yeah.
under savings. Yeah. Okay.
Some interesting benefits, free money, opportunity to build your savings. And then of course,
Yes.
building an emergency fund.
Yes. Someone wrote under the savings side, under the first question, financial literacy training to help for a lifetime.
Mhm.
That is so important because these kinds of things creates these life skills, right? And so it's awesome that these programs inherently is building competencies that will stick with the residents going forward. That's awesome. Right. And again, wherever you feel the energy, just let us know. Put some likes down. Let's take a look at on the credit side.
Mhm.
Under that first question, we've got help with more buying options, better interest rates. Yeah, we've got two comments on interest rates, so that's important, especially in our environment today. So these are around the benefits. We've got some really awesome benefits here that people are rating. Yeah, drag those thumbs up. Yeah, it's awesome. Under the middle question, what are reasons people may hesitate? Well, we've got some interesting things here. We've got mistrust of financial institutions on the saving side. We also got some traction around too good to be true. Right. Yeah. Oh, systems trauma. Yes, I'm going to invite anyone who wants to comment on any of these. I think this is important. When we think about reasons why people might hesitate to participate, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, everyone would want to stay opted in on the savings, and people want to definitely all sign up for the credit. But the point is, there's some things that people are concerned about, and that is important. So we really want to make sure that we're capturing this because our messaging should be able to address some of this to the extent that we can. Some people are unable to open a bank account. Yeah, that's a big consideration. Yes. On the credit side, fear of mistakes, bad marks. And what about people who already have a good credit score? They may feel like they don't need to um, enroll in the program.
There's an interesting one, Devin, the no vision to why it would be important to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
concern.
yeah. It's answering like the so what question. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's a very important point. Thank you for whoever put that in there. Yes. Yeah, because we got to make sure that people feel like this is something that is important. And of course, we know that people have different experiences, so it could be that what they've experienced in the past may have created a mindset that would make them feel that way, that this is not important to them anymore. Someone else wrote, afraid it would hurt the
Yeah.
score if they miss a rent payment. Wow, that's something. But we know that we're doing positive reporting only, right? So that should be something that we should let people know in the messaging. But thank you. But these are real fears. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got just over 3 minutes left in this particular section, but let's take a look at the third question. What are the most important thing residents need to know about your program? Looks like we got some traction around unrestricted use of funds. Right. Savings with no contribution from them. Foundation for lifetime success. Yes. Does not count as income.
Mhm.
Financial coaching done by third-party professional. Yes. Very good. Yeah.
Here's an interesting one, communicating that there's no restrictions on what they can use the money for. I think it really speaks to that fear of strings attached to anything related to money or benefits. I think that really
Yeah.
caught my eye. Let me move
Yeah, that's
these
great.
thumbs
That's
up
really
here.
great.
See what we
Yes. Yeah.
unrestricted. Yeah, same thing.
Yes. Yes. And what I'm going to say to everyone, please, we've got about 2 minutes left in this section, and we want to really maximize our time here. So what I want you to think about, I want you to think about everything that's been posted so far. And you guys have done a great job at putting likes on the ones that really resonate with you. Because what we're eventually going to do for both the savings and the credit, we're going to move over into our next panel in a few minutes. We're going to move over there, but we're gonna just drag over the stickies that got the most likes. And because what we want to do, we want to make sure that the items here that you have deemed to be important, that's resonating, that you really feel should be a part of the messaging, then we're going to bring those over. But we'll do that in a moment. So we want to give everyone an opportunity to look at all the different stickies on the board in panel number 2, and then we will move them over in a moment. So thank
And
you.
just a little guidance here. I think I'm happy to move those over. So if you have thoughts um, on anything that you see on the board, you can unmute your lines and let us know, or you can use the chat to communicate with us. But I think we're gonna grab sort of the ones that have the most votes, and those are the ones that we're gonna
Yeah.
move to the next section. And this is really just meant to be a demonstration. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're fine, Johanna. Yeah. And then I want to make a point here on the middle question. What are the reasons people may hesitate? Now there's no particular likes on, I mean, we've got like 5 or 6 different post-its that have messages in them. But what we want you to do is drag these to one of those 6 that you feel like resonates with you, or a new one that you really feel strongly about. Because what we want to do, hopefully, is we want to try to be able to pull, a sticky from each of these categories to the next panel. So thank you all for doing that. And so this is going to conclude our time in this particular panel. Thank you so much. Oh, all right, cool. So now, yeah, great. Little sound effect there. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Yeah, thank you. All right. So Johanna gave us a great introduction at the beginning of our session today about the message triangle. And this can really take a lot of time. And so, but here's what we're going to do. For sake of our demonstration today, we're gonna simulate what you might do back at your offices when you're with your team and you're crafting and developing your messages. So what we want to do is we want to bring over, and Johanna, looks like you're bringing over some of the ones already for the savings. We're gonna look at each of these individually, savings, and then we're gonna go to credit. So I'm going to summon everyone over to savings just for a moment so that we can all be there at the same time. So starting with savings, it looks like that the top 3, based on your responses a moment ago, and we need to set our timer also for this
Yeah,
particular section. I'll do that
do
really
that.
quickly.
I'll set it up
Okay.
for a couple of minutes
There,
less
got it.
than 15. Oh, there you
Yeah,
go. Thank you.
yeah, we got it. Yeah, we got it. Okay, so let's spend a little bit of time here. And so here's what we're doing. What we did, we pulled over these themes. Now, I'm going to say this. If there are additional things that you feel should be in the messaging for the savings, feel free to drag it over from panel 2. And I'm saying that to everyone, okay? Because what we want to do, we want to make sure that we can consider everything, because there's a lot of us here, and we want to make sure all voices are heard. So what we did to start us off, we pulled over the ones for savings that kind of have the most likes around. But if there's one that you feel strongly about, please bring it over. Just drag it over, and you can drag it over into the white space underneath the savings icon that you see there. Because what we're going to do is, once we have all of the ideas that what you think should go into the messaging, then we're gonna think about how we can unify that into one message. Now, I want to say this: when we talk about unifying a message, it doesn't mean that it might encapsulate everything that you've deemed to be important, but it could be a representation of maybe the most important thing. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. But what we want to do is really think about what is that message that we want to get out for the savings program. And again, this is just a demonstration. When you all get back, you're going to go and do a deeper dive on this with your teams, and you'll have other ideas that you'll do. We're just showing you a way to facilitate this. But for sake of our time together today, we just wanted to give you an idea of how we can pull these ideas from our brainstorm and really get them in circulation around the development and the crafting of our messaging. And I see we've got a couple more that came over, Johanna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely financial literacy. What you were saying, Devin, of building skills for a lifetime, and then definitely the building an emergency fund.
yes, yes. That's great. Okay, so here's what we can do, everyone. Now, we've got these additional ideas here for this unifying theme exercise. And so let's do this together. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. You moved that one around. That's fine. And so what I want you to do, this is where you guys come in right now. We want you to think about what's on the board at the present moment under the savings initiative. And what we want to do is think about, well, what would be a unifying theme that we could develop from what's here? Mistrust of financial institutions, free money, unrestricted use of funds, money for unexpected emergencies, financial literacy for a lifetime. Okay, so what are some things that, or a theme that we can actually develop based on these things? And we're gonna put it into one sticky. So that middle sticky under unifying theme is going to be what we come up with. And so what we're going to do, we're going to allow you all to do that. So what I'm going to invite everyone to do is someone to come off mute, because this is going to require a little bit of a conversation. So please feel free to unmute and give us your thoughts on what you believe to be a unifying theme based on what we've got on the board right now for savings. And we're going to do this for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to shift down to the credit. And my question is, do we have all the ideas here in section 3 that you believe should be part of the messaging based on all things considered so far about the savings? Do we have everything here? And if we do, great. Let's work on unifying them. But if we don't, let's add it to the board now. There's something else.
And I would add, Devin, these are all really, really great ideas. And the fact that
Yes.
we are choosing, 3 of them doesn't mean the other ones are not important, or that
Right.
you can't craft a really great message around those points too. We have sort of 3 in this corner that are a little bit different from each other. So and I think that's okay. But as we think about the unifying theme, we'll definitely want to keep those really clear and tight.
Yes. Thank you, Johanna.
So maybe we'll have to make a choice. Whether are we going to talk
Yes.
in our message about opening a bank account, or maybe we leave that aside but focus on building skills for a lifetime, or maybe we focus on money for an emergency fund and the fact that it's free money and you can use it for whatever you want. So as you craft those messages, you do have to make choices, and that's okay.
Right. And also knowing that the message may evolve over time. So
Mhm.
this might be the initial message. But as you begin to have more discussions, then of course things may change, and that's okay. But what we want to do is just try to get one message out of all of this. I know that with these answers here, I know they're kind of in different categories. So what could we say? Yeah, so I see someone starting to type in the middle.
Oh,
Go for
Devin,
it. Yeah,
that's
we
me. I'm
oh, it's
gonna
you.
venture.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
craft
Awesome.
it. But
Yeah.
others, feel free to unmute your line and contribute. But what about, you know, um, build your savings or I'll just write this, but of
Yeah.
course we can change it.
Yeah.
Maybe not the greatest
That's good.
tagline, but
No,
think about let's
that's great. No, that's great, Johanna. I think we're good to go there. That's awesome. So again, we're just trying to give you guys a format to follow when you're thinking about your messaging, and that's great. So this is what we came up with here, and Johanna, thank you for coming up with that. All right, so cool. Let's move on to the credit. All right, so let's all scroll down to the credit triangle, and we have just three different post-its here. So I'm going to invite everyone right now to again take a look at some of your responses from panel 2 on credit. Is there additional things that you think should be in the messaging for the credit, or are we good with the 3 stickies that are here? So let's take a moment to do that. We've got about 6 minutes left in this particular panel to do this. So we've got a little bit of time.
and if anyone feels like they want to come up with a tagline, a unifying theme, if you don't want to do it on verbally, feel free to, write a sticky and write your tagline, and we can definitely work with that. But I think in
Yeah.
this one, we definitely have 3 very um, clear points we want to make that they can improve or establish their credit for those who don't have a credit history. That will help them access better interest rates in the future, and communicating that only positive reporting.
Yes. Well, I think that only positive reporting is good, because we had another sticky from panel 2 that someone said afraid it would hurt their score if they miss a payment.
Mhm.
So that I'm gonna bring that one over because we've gotten more than one person that said that. So we know that this positive only reporting is pretty strong. And we also got a couple of comments on interest rates as well. What else, everyone, here on the credit?
Any ideas from participants? Any ideas you want to share in the chat, or unmute your line? This is definitely not easy, but it can be a fun exercise to do with with others in your community, something that is really, really relevant to your residents, and that speaks to their concerns and their fears. So I would suggest, is anyone typing? I see someone typing.
Yeah, someone's typing another one. Yeah,
Let's
that's
see.
great.
Your credit break. breakthrough. Oh, wait, I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's great marketing language. Yes. Again, we're thinking about what's going to resonate because we're asking people to sign up for the credit initiative, right? That they're going
There's
to
no
have to
risk.
opt
Yeah.
in, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And think about
Oh, someone
only
wants to know how to go off mute.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Johanna. Someone
Go
asked
ahead.
that in that. No, someone wanted to see how to unmute. You can unmute in the platform. So if you're having challenges with unmuting, if we could connect with our host, if you can send a message and they can help you unmute. Building for better borrowing. Monroe. Yeah, and your credit breakthrough awaits. Yes.
You know,
All right.
another way of looking at this only positive reporting is that it has very low risk for them, right? Because any issues they have with paying rent will not really affect the rent reporting, will not hurt their credit scores
Right.
and credit history. Someone else is typing.
All right. Yes. That's a good one. Someone just wrote, make your rent payments count for credit. Yes. And that kind of goes around, I mean, the same thing around this one, around your credit breakthrough awaits and building for better borrowing. Yeah, those three actually could go into that messaging for this one. That's great.
I love this. Now we have more than
Yeah,
we set out to, but that I think that's
yeah,
okay because these are coming
yeah, I
from
do
you,
too.
and that's what makes them valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the whole point, everyone. It's just about how can we think about what's most important, what's the most important thing to say to help gather some interest, some energy, some passion around these initiatives so that residents feel good about them. They're talking to their friends and family and other residents about them, and it's really moving the program forward because people are participating and they're participating with joy. Okay, so all right. So that's it. Looks like we're gonna wrap up this particular section, and at this point in time, we're gonna pass it back over to Johanna. So I'll put this one over here
Awesome.
as well. All right.
Thank you, Devin. So let me
Yes.
summon you to section 4. So great brainstorming there. And just, keep in mind, this is a demonstration. We are, this is not meant to be the message that you will take back to your community and use in your marketing materials. This is just an exercise, but hopefully it demonstrates the process for coming up with that unified message. So now I'd like to turn our attention to outreach strategy. And here we really want to focus on that period of time before you launch your program. All right, so for this next exercise, we would like you to think about, again, that period before launching your program and all the touch points that you have with your residents. So focus on the little bubbles here, the colorful bubbles. This is where we're going to do the work. So think about all the touch points with your residents, all those moments and places when you interact with your residents and can talk to them about your program. What we're going to ask you to do is type your answers in the bubble stickies. Keep in mind that participants are automatically enrolled in your opt-out savings program, and they would have to actively withdraw from the program if they don't want to participate. So you'll want to communicate with residents in the savings program about, you want your messages to focus on staying in the program. On the other hand, residents in the rent reporting program would have to actively choose to participate in the program if they wanted to. So your message will focus on persuading them to sign up for the program. And that's not even taking into account the fact that there's a random selection of residents, etc. But we'll hear more about that later on. All right, so I'm seeing here you can put signs in the lobby. You can use newsletters, the welcome letter, phone calls, social media, social activities. Again, letters if they have been selected, bank statements, monthly bank statements. Okay. All right, so again, think about your staff at the PHA. When are they interacting with residents that would potentially participate in the program? Laundry room flyers, great. What about any one-on-one interactions? Do you have staff meeting with residents one-on-one? Or what about any regular meetings? So I see orientations. All right, these are text messages. Yep. So that's really great. And there is some overlap between your touch points and the tools that you use to communicate with your residents. But here really focus on those moments when you communicate with them. And specifically think about before the program starts. All right. And I see some of you have already moved on to section B. That's great. And here we are talking about outreach tools and channels that can help you make those touch points, communication opportunities with your clients. So keeping in mind the touch points that you've already entered in the bubbles, and the unified message that we developed in section 3 of the board for the sake of this demonstration, let's think about the tools and channels that you can use to communicate with residents about the program. So you've already identified when you communicate with residents. Now we're talking about the how you'll communicate with them. Exactly. So you're dragging those stars next to them. And the reason why we are asking you to think about this is because it is very likely that multiple people in your organization will be answering questions about your program. So you want to make sure that the message that you develop really carries through all of your materials, and that everyone who will be communicating with residents about the program, everyone is communicating the same message or a similar message.
Yeah, Johanna, I'm noticing here that we've got a lot of traction around FAQs.
Yeah.
So that's a popular one. Yeah, and informational presentations and Q&A sessions. So those I would imagine those would be events that is held by the PHAs to really get that information out. Also, awesome.
You know, what's interesting about the FAQs and the informational presentation is that they can be both, they can serve the purpose of training staff. You know, if you have some FAQs and staff talking points, that's a great way of training everyone who will be talking about the program or answering questions about the program. It's a really great tool for that, but it's also, you know, presentations is also a great way to bring that information to your residents. And it looks like email communications is also pretty popular. All right, we'll give people a few more seconds. And have we forgotten anything here? This list is not supposed to be exhaustive. So what have we missed? What other outreach ideas do you have? And I see a couple of you are already writing. There's some stickies down at the bottom that you can use to write your thoughts and ideas about other outreach strategies that you can use. Now, again, bring you down here to where you can enter other ideas. So what are some other outreach tools that you can use or other opportunities that you identify where you can communicate with residents about your program that you think will be effective? All right, so as you type that, and because we don't have a lot of time, I want us to move on to, oh, sorry, I see someone through the tenant portal. Excellent, that's a great idea. So using all your virtual channels, but also more conventional ways of communicating with clients. Okay. Let's move on then to your outreach strategy after the program launches. And here, you know, we're going to move forward in time, think about your implementation phase of the program, and hopefully you're following me. And if you're not, we are on, well, I'll summon you. We're focusing here on outreach strategy after the program launches. So what communications will be important during implementation? And here you want to focus on building community. You want to focus on maintaining engagement and promoting financial well-being. So think about communication strategies that will help you build community, engagement, that will help you, help your residents build skills that they need for a lifetime that you talked about earlier. And unmute your line if you want to contribute verbally. Don't be shy. There's no wrong answers here. Or use the stickies to enter your ideas. So reminding participants of upcoming financial literacy opportunities. And that's okay, because I think so. Right, letting participants know. That learning is a lifetime journey. You don't have to know it all right now. supporting the idea that you don't have to be perfect. Excellent. So really speaking to their fears of failing, of risk aversion, letting participants know they aren't alone. I love that these are really focused on addressing their fears and their concerns. And Devin, any thoughts on what we're seeing here? Or maybe we can move on to next steps already.
This is great. I think this is lots of information that that can be built upon. But yeah, but I think for sake of time, we'll definitely need to move forward into the next steps. I've got about 2.5 minutes left on the board for section 5, the next steps for PHA messaging and outreach strategy. So if
Yeah.
you want to lead us into that, and then we can
Yeah.
wrap that. Mhm.
And we also wanted to leave a few seconds for the checkout section. So here under next steps in section 5, we're asking what are the next steps for your PHA messaging and outreach strategy? So feel free to, again, unmute your line, type in the chat, or just share in a sticky note your response. What are the next steps that you need to follow as you develop your messaging and outreach strategy? And we'll have to do this fairly quickly, as we want to leave at least a minute before we wrap up for the checkout.
Yeah, it looks like some people have already started doing the checkout, and that's totally fine. It's great.
So as you think about next steps, think about what needs to happen. How do you feel? What do you feel you need to design your messaging and outreach strategy? What's next for you? Some of you felt, you were pretty far along, and others not so much with your strategy. So share your thoughts under next steps.
Yeah, it looks like we've got some people that are writing down what else they think they need with sample marketing materials, sample outreach messaging, need to know how families will be selected. So these are all things that is still needed.
And you guys are all pros here with Mural. Congratulations.
Yes.
People
That's
are
right.
already moving the little
That's right.
icons of the finger on the line, and we're basically, this is just going to tell us how you're feeling about your outreach strategy. So we have a few seconds.
They're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think
Okay.
at this time, yeah. Thanks everybody for doing that, participating in the mural board collaboration. I think right now, Johanna, we transition to the breakout room. So
That
we
is
can,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
So thank you so much for this great engagement. We're gonna move on to the random assignment strategy discussion, and with that, I'll hand it over to Larry, who will guide us through that section. But thank you all for the great work.
If you will, please go back to the WebEx window. So leave the mural board and go back to WebEx. Thank you. Okay, Larry, back to you.
Okay, the next slide. So hi, everybody. I'm Larry Buron from Apt Associates. I'm part of the Apt and MEF Associates Evaluation Design team. And I recently, actually yesterday afternoon, I sent you an email asking you a few questions about your program. We're checking in on the status of your program and the plans for your program, getting some information in order that we can help support you through the evaluation. So some PHAs have already responded, and thank you for that really quick turnaround on answering. And I'm hoping all the other PHAs can answer in the next couple of days. So the email was sent to the executive director and the person listed as the MTW contact. So in case you haven't seen that email or have seen it but haven't opened it, here are the questions that are being asked. What month you expect to be ready to enroll people in your program? How many households are you planning to enroll? How many households are not English speakers and need documents translated in their language? And if there are some, what are those languages? And we know you don't have your program participants chosen yet, so we're just looking for all of your assisted households, roughly what percentage speak languages other than English and need their documents translated. And we assume the program participants will be a similar percentage. And for rent reporting PHAs, we have an extra question, and we're just asking if you're going to report to all 3 rent credit bureaus. And so for now, even if you don't have your plans aren't final, just give your best estimate or your current expectation. We know it's not final, but we just want to get an idea of where you're headed. So thank you for your time and appreciate your participation in this study.
Okay, everyone, I believe that is going to bring us towards the end of our session today. And I want to thank everybody for your participation. We'll go to the next slide. And we did mention that we're going to be sharing participant education materials that could be a part of an upcoming community of practice. And we have some other ideas from our initial visiting session. So please take a minute, knowing what you know now, to type in the chat what your ideas are about what you'd like in the future communities of practice to focus on. I know we're at time, so you can just type it really quick, but I believe that will be it for today.
We did have a question in the chat.
Okay.
We had a question about what other are other PHAs providing information about the opt-out savings program to PHA participants that are not selected or only to those that are? And if you can, any PHAs that have any ideas about this or thoughts or know what your PHA is planning on doing, if you will, please put that into the chat or come off mute so that we can answer this question and help each other.
Yeah, was there anyone that could answer that question?
We talked about this a little bit in our breakout session. Oh, maybe I talked. So they don't have to let everybody know, but they should be prepared to answer questions of people who hear about it and wonder why they're not part of it.
Great answer, very helpful.
Mhm. Yeah,
Another PHA. Go ahead, Devin.
no, there's some answers coming in the chat that someone was saying they don't have plans to notify people not selected. But we'll have information on their website on the buildings. Yes. Okay. All right. So we do have a couple more thoughts in the chat. Angela, how do we want to handle that? Being that we're at time.
Yeah, let's make sure we can answer as many questions as possible. Definitely want to get to those. Can the evaluators provide a standard answer for that question? Okay, I think maybe that was before Larry spoke. In that,
Yeah, we will provide some language like for frequently asked questions about the evaluation, and part of that will be, why wasn't I chosen or something, but that will we'll give you some wording about the study and stuff, but you may have to customize it for your program.
And I really like what Melanie had said about having, that transparency being very important there. So thank you so much. I think that's it. Thank you guys for all of the feedback around this question and around interest for upcoming topics. I'm going to turn it back over to Devin now to close out.
Yeah, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Andalyn, and everyone for your participation today. And as you know, that the recording will be available in the coming weeks in the Web Exchange class page. And we look forward to seeing you all in the next Community of Practice session. So that's all for now. Thank you, everybody.